Dear students, welcome back. In the previous session, we have discussed about the regions of the abdomen. The main purpose of studying these regions of abdomen is to describe the location of the viscera. And now in this session, we are going to see the peritoneum. Okay, the peritoneum is a Greek word which means stretched over. And this peritoneum is a large serous membrane lining the abdominal cavity. Okay, the space inside the abdominal wall forms the abdominal cavity. So this abdominal wall includes anterolateral as well as the posterior abdominal wall. The inner layer of this peritoneum is covered by this large serous layer called as peritoneum. So this one is the peritoneum. Okay, so this peritoneum, histologically it is composed of two layers. One is the outer layer, which is made up of fibrous tissue which gives strength to the membrane, and inner layer consists of mesothelial cells which secretes a serous fluid which lubricates the surface, thus allowing free movements of viscera. Okay, so one is the outer layer is called as parietal peritoneum and inner layer is called as visceral peritoneum. Okay, this peritoneum is in the form of a closed sac. It is in the form of a closed sac and which is invaginated by number of viscera. And this one is going to invaginate by number of viscera. So here this one is the visceral organs, and this visceral organs is invaginated by this peritoneum. So after invagination, which results the peritoneum divided into outer parietal peritoneum and visceral peritoneum. And after invagination, some folds of peritoneum also present. So this is called as fold of peritoneum. So this fold of peritoneum helps to suspend the visceral organs in this fold. Okay, the peritoneum, which is a simple cavity before being it is invaginated. So before invaginated it is a simple cavity. Okay, after invagination of many viscera, it becomes highly complicated. Okay, so thus now we will see this parietal peritoneum and visceral peritoneum. This parietal peritoneum, which lines the innermost layer of the abdominal as well as the pelvic walls and also the lower surface of the diaphragm. If you can see this abdominal cavity, so this is the diaphragm, it is on the anterior view, and these are the lateral, and this one becomes the pelvic. So the inner layers of the walls and also the lower surface of the diaphragm is surrounded by this parietal peritoneum, and this parietal peritoneum is loosely attached to the walls by extraperitoneal connective tissue. So normally these are some kind of areolar tissue. Okay, and therefore this layer can be easily stripped off. Embryologically, this parietal peritoneum is derived from somatopleuric layer of the lateral plate mesoderm, and it is also having the same blood supply and nerve supply as that of the abdominal body wall. Okay. So because of this somatic innervation, the parietal peritoneum is pain sensitive. It is having pain sensitive. Okay, now coming to the visceral peritoneum, it lines the outer surface of the viscera to which it is firmly adherent and it cannot be stripped. So this visceral layer becomes a part and parcel of the viscera. Embryologically, this visceral peritoneum is derived from splanchopleuric layer of the lateral plate mesoderm. And this blood supply and nerve supply are same as that of the viscera which is surrounded to it. Okay, normally this visceral organs will have autonomic innervation. So whenever this viscera is stretched, then this peritoneum, that is visceral peritoneum, will get pain. Normally when there is any ischemic or any distension of these organs, then this visceral peritoneum evokes pain. Okay, so this is about the peritoneum. Now here you can see how this peritoneum and the visceral organs are invaginating this peritoneum. Okay, so if you can see here, so this here you can see this viscera which is invaginating this simple cavity and which is completely invaginated and it becomes intraperitoneal. Okay, so that means the entire organ is surrounded by this visceral layer and this one is the parietal layer. Okay, and this here below this organ you can see the fold here. So this also supplies blood vessels and the nerve supply and blood supply to this viscera. Okay, and so based upon the position of this visceral organs in relation to the peritoneum, they are defined as intraperitoneal, secondary retroperitoneal, and it is also called as mesoperitoneal visceral organs. And next one is the extraperitoneal or retroperitoneal or subperitoneal organs. Okay, so many organs within the abdomen are suspended by the folds of the peritoneum. Such organs are mobile. So the degree and direction of mobility are governed by the size and direction of this peritoneal fold. Okay, so the intraperitoneal organs are visible and also these are mobile. Okay, the intraperitoneal organs are stomach, spleen, cecum, appendix, transverse sigmoid colon, upper rectum, jejunum and ileum comes under these intraperitoneal organs. If you see the secondary retroperitoneal or mesoperitoneal visceral organs, here in this peritoneum is covered almost all the sides, but except some part is not covered by this peritoneum, so they become as mesoperitoneal viscera. So normally these are immobile. So the organs comes under mesoperitoneal viscera are liver, gallbladder, ascending colon, descending colon, middle rectum, urinary bladder if it is full, then it comes under mesoperitoneal viscera. Now, some organs directly rest on the posterior abdominal wall, and these may cover by the peritoneum on one side. Such organs are said to be retroperitoneal. Okay, so some organs are suspended by peritoneal folds in embryonic life, but they become retroperitoneal in this manner. So here one of the fold of this visceral layer of the viscera is going to fuse with the parietal peritoneum, and finally this organ becomes retroperitoneal. Okay, so the retroperitoneal visceral organs are suprarenal glands, duodenum, pancreas, kidney, ureter, urinary bladder. When it is empty, comes under retroperitoneal viscera. If you see the subperitoneal organs, this includes the pelvic cavity organ, the organs present in the pelvic cavity. One is the urinary bladder, prostate, seminal vesicle, cervix, uterus and vagina. So these will comes under this subperitoneal organs. Okay, so based upon the relation of peritoneum to various organs, the visceral organs are named as intraperitoneal, mesoperitoneal or secondary retroperitoneal, and retroperitoneal or extraperitoneal and subperitoneal organs, visceral organs. Okay, now you can appreciate these areas like intraperitoneal and secondary peritoneal and subperitoneal. So here, this is the sagittal section of the abdomen. Here, this is the anterior abdominal wall, and here you can see the posterior abdominal wall. You can find this red line, which is the parietal layer, which is covering the inner lining of the abdominal wall and superiorly below the diaphragm. Okay, and the green line, you can see this visceral peritoneum. Okay, so the behind this parietal peritoneum, you'll have some spaces. So that is called as retroperitoneal space. In that retroperitoneal space, you can find these such kind of this retroperitoneal organs. Okay. Yes. So you can see in this transverse section also. So this is the anterior and posterior aspect of the abdominal wall. So this is the posterior abdominal wall. You can find this lumbar vertebrae and the muscles and the fascia, thoracolumbar fascia, and these are the deep back muscles. Okay, here. So the yellow line which indicates this peritoneum, and inside this peritoneum or the intraperitoneal organs. So behind this peritoneum, so this one is posterior, so this one is on the dorsal aspect of the peritoneum, that is called as a retroperitoneal organs, retroperitoneal space. In that retroperitoneal space you can find this kidneys also. Here you can see this. Okay, and also you can find the aorta and inferior vena cava also on the posterior abdominal wall, that is retroperitoneal spaces. Okay, so and you can see this mesoperitoneal organs also. Here if you can see here, this is the peritoneum, you can find here. So this is the liver where the most of the part is covered by this peritoneum, and some part is not covered here by this peritoneum. So such kind of organs comes under mesoperitoneal visceral organs. Okay, yes. Next coming to the peritoneal folds here. So this peritoneal folds, if you can see this peritoneal folds, what do you mean by this peritoneal folds? Means the visceral and the parietal layers are continuous with each other. Visceral and parietal layers are continuous with each other. You can see here this parietal layer is continuous with the visceral layer. Okay, there it forms folds. So the visceral and parietal layers are continuous with each other through certain folds. Such folds are called as peritoneal folds. Okay, so there are three types of peritoneal folds. Yes, you can see here this peritoneal folds. So the different types of peritoneal folds are, one is mesentery, another one is omentum, and next one is the ligaments. Okay, here you can see the mesentery and omentum. So now we will see this mesentery. Here this pic related to mesentery is again the sagittal section of the abdominal wall. Here you can find different organs. So this one is liver, stomach, and this one is transverse colon, and the remaining small circular things are the small intestine, and this one is the colon. Okay, so on the sagittal section you can find all these things, and if you can see there are number of folds of peritoneum also you can see in this sagittal section. Okay, and these organs are invaginated inside this peritoneum. So these most of the organs you can see here are intraperitoneal. Okay, so now mesentery is one kind of peritoneal fold. So the name itself, meso, means intestine. The fold here, the fold suspending the enteron means small intestine. So the fold suspending the small intestine or enteron is called as the mesentery. And if the fold suspending to the colon, then it given the name as mesocolon. So if it is colon and here a fold is present, then it is called as mesocolon. Okay, so mesentery proper is nothing but the folds which covers the small intestine. So we can study all these things in detail when we are dealing with this intestine separately. Okay, and this is about the mesentery. Okay, mesentery is a fold which connects the intestines with that of parietal wall. So all these mesentery finally connects to the parietal wall. Okay, mesentery of transverse colon is called as transverse mesocolon, like that. Okay, now next type of peritoneal fold is called as omentum. Okay, large peritoneal folds which are attached to the stomach. So this is the stomach. Large peritoneal folds which are attached to the stomach are called as omentum. So there are two types of omenta are present. One is the lesser omentum, which is seen on the ventral aspect of the stomach, and greater omentum, which is seen on the dorsal aspect of the stomach. Okay, this is a peritoneal fold. Omentum is a peritoneal fold which stretches between the stomach and to other visceral organs. Okay, the lesser omentum is formed between the stomach and the liver. This is the lesser omentum which is formed between these two organs, and the greater omentum which is formed between stomach and the transverse colon. Here transverse colon is present. This is the greater omentum. And also another kind of omentum is also seen, that is gastrosplenic omentum, which is seen between the stomach and the spleen. So omentum is the large peritoneal folds. Okay, next another fold of the peritoneum or the ligaments. Okay, so here you can find number of ligaments. So the ligaments are double layered folds of the peritoneum. So ligaments are the double layered folds of the peritoneum, connect organs to the abdominal wall or to each other. So these ligaments may connect to the abdominal wall or they may connect in between the two organs. For example, gastrosplenic ligament. So this one is a double layered ligament which connects the spleen and the stomach. Okay, and other type of ligaments or other kind of folds which are named based upon their shape, that is called as triangular ligaments. What you called? Triangular ligaments. These triangular ligaments, for example, these ligaments are seen on the liver. So if you can see, this is the left triangular ligament, right triangular ligament. So these are the examples for the ligaments. This is another kind of peritoneal fold, which is a double layered fold of peritoneum which connects the organs to the abdominal wall or to the organs with each other. Okay, so this is about the introduction of this peritoneum. In this session we have discussed about what is peritoneum and layers of peritoneum and the different kinds of peritoneal organs in relation to the peritoneum, and also different types of folds, that is peritoneal folds which are related to peritoneum. All this terminology is very much required for further studying of these organs. Okay, and in the next session we are going to discuss about the peritoneal cavity and its divisions, and also functions of the peritoneum and the clinical anatomy of the peritoneum. Thank you.